a long ways with Sammy. Billy Bridges, her husband, I played with for a number of years, and Billy, one of the greatest para ice hockey players of all time. And I remember when Billy and Sammy had started dating, and Billy and I were rooming together in the tournament in the Czech Republic, and he told me about this incredible girl, and thankfully, when he asked her to marry him, she said yes. I was honored to actually to toast them at their wedding, which was on Canada Day. And believe it or not, their wedding, you talk about two great Canadian icon hockey players, their wedding song, Gooch, was "Oh Canada." But Sammy, you had a great career. You did some great things. You helped me out going into Vancouver as my goalie coach, and it meant the world to me. For somebody who has played the game at the highest level, taught in so many different goalie camps all over the world, and of course your own goalie camp. What would you say to a young goalie coming up now in all of these crazy times with COVID-19? What would you say? You sat down with a young 14-year-old up-and-coming goalie. Tell us, take us through it.
For sure. Yeah, so that's obviously that's a huge question because right now there is so much of the unknown out there, and it's a difficult situation. But I think a mind at work is somebody that's not focused on other things, is maybe not susceptible to anxiety or some of the mental health issues. So I really encourage all of the kids out there that are hockey players to take some time to train. And this is not going to be the easiest thing to do. But for a lot of you guys, you might have siblings around, your parents might be working from home. This is not an easy time for your family. And the more that you can find yourself doing things and being busy, that's going to help, especially if your parents are trying to work from home. So trying to carve out a space within your house, your apartment, wherever you happen to live, that can be your little space. And as goalies, we don't really need that much space to be able to work, to be able to sort of hone our skills off the ice, and use this time to really focus on the off ice, on the little things that you can do to improve not only your cardio, but your athleticism and your stretching, all of those kind of things. So I have some great resources that I like to tell my young goalies to go towards or to move towards. And it just depends on what level of player you are, what level of goaltender you are. So the first is a trainer by the name of Jacqueline Gradish. And Jacqueline trained the Toronto Maple Leafs. And we were lucky enough to get her with the Toronto Furies last year. So as the general manager, I hired her. And she is really incredible. You should look her up on Instagram or Twitter or whatever your social media source is. And what I love so much about her is that she is all about injury prevention. And I think as goaltenders, we come in so many different shapes and sizes. Some are super strong, some are super fast, some are have great cardio. Whatever it is that you have, really what's paramount about becoming a really great goaltender is the ability to stay injury free. And so that's what she really works on. She works on aspects of your game that maybe you're not even really thinking about, but they're really important for joint strength, for muscle strength, in those small little muscles that you need to not tweak when you're actually playing and getting to train. So she's one to look for. She's currently training a lot of the national team girls who unfortunately didn't have a world championships this year, but is doing a lot of Zoom videos, posting a lot of videos. And so really think about your base. Think about how you can use this time to really augment your base. Another one is Kim McCullough. She runs Total Female Hockey, and that's for hockey players and goaltenders. And if you're looking for different ways to train within your house, she has a lot of videos going on right now about how you can use the products that you already have in your house, soup cans, sticks, whatever it is, to be able to get your game to the next level and really augment your strength in this extended off season that we have right now. The last one is a girl by the name of Maria Mountain. Now, I've never actually met Maria, but I have followed her online and have the utmost respect for her. She has coached a lot of the top goaltenders in the NHL off the ice. Her website, I wrote it down, is called Goalie Training Pro. And so she has a ton of videos on there that are small space videos that goalies can do. A lot of the stuff includes having your catcher and blocker on at the same time while you're doing it. So mimicking all of those different aspects of goaltending. So check her out. She has some amazing videos online. There's some great resources out there. So this is not a time to just kind of sit down and feel sorry for yourself. This is a time to get yourself elevated to that next level and do more than that person in the next house is doing, so that come season, whenever that happens to be, you'll be ready. But I do want to say to all the young goalies out there that it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel like you're sad about the season being over. I know for a lot of my former teammates that were on Team Canada, being told that the World Championship was not going to be there, was not going to exist this year, was really hard. You trained the entire season to make the team, and now all of a sudden there's nothing. And so for a lot of goalies who maybe had playoffs coming up, or maybe had big games coming up that they were really looking forward to, they won't have that now. It's okay to grieve that is gone. I know in 2003, I was a member of Team Canada, and we were just about to leave for the World Championships in Beijing, China. And in fact, 6 of the 8 teams had already landed in China when they announced, because of SARS that year, that there would be no World Championships. So we never got to go. And it was really hard, because I felt like I had battled myself and put myself in a position where I could be the top goalie and really proved it to the coaches, and I wasn't going to get to showcase that. And so I think taking that time to grieve and taking the time for yourself too is okay. Taking a couple weeks off to just do other things that you enjoy, I'm kind of a dork, so I like puzzles and books and stuff, but other people like video games and whatever it is. Take some time so that you're excited to get back to it and you're excited to get back to hockey. And if we don't grieve our losses in life, I think it can really, it can overwhelm us at other times. And it might come up next April when your season has been really long, and that's when mental health issues can start to creep in. So do take care of yourself, and do everything you can to be the best version of yourself. And that means, helping out your parents. That means trying to be as supportive to them, obviously in a very stressful situation for them. Doing what they say, doing what you're told is super helpful, but also not being a burden, trying to find things that you can do on your own, so that when you guys do have time as a family, it really is joyous, and you're not just around each other for 12 hours a day and at each other's throats. So this is a time for, I think, all people to step up. And you might only be 10 or 11 years old, and it might be really hard, but finding something that you love doing, and that could be goaltending, that could be something else that really takes your mind off what's going on, I think will be helpful in the long run. And maybe signing up for hockey school in the summer. Not to plug my hockey school, but I do have a hockey school.
A Sammy Joe Small Hockey School, right?
That's right. The Sammy Joe Small Hockey School runs in Winnipeg for players and goalies. And then we have an all-female goalie school here it's just outside of Toronto in Oakville, Ontario. And we generally have about 60 girl goalies at that camp. So with all the top instructors from the elite level of women's hockey. So that's a lot of fun. And hopefully if you sign up for something like that, that's maybe something to look forward to. It doesn't mean you need to play hockey all summer. It just gives you something to look forward to and train for, so that you can show us how hard you've been working all season.
Right. I remember one thing really quick, Gooch, that Tammy did. I don't know if she remembers, but we did a drill. We were at the MasterCard Center, and we did a drill, and Billy and a couple guys were taking shots on the off wings on me. And if I let a goal in and I didn't get back to my post in the way that she was actually telling me to get myself set, and the puck went in, I had to turn and, with my full equipment and my sled on, pull the crossbar and do pull-ups over the crossbar to come down. That was my punishment for not doing the right.
Girl,
Remember that? Do you remember that?
I do remember. Can you imagine poor Billy, who's married to that? I'm so sorry.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sam, you were unbelievable with the things that you said for young girls and what they could be doing now. And a big shout out from Hunter Borger. You know the name. She is the daughter of one of my best friends in Winnipeg. She's been to your camp, absolutely adores you, says you're the best. So that's wonderful. And also want to do a couple other shout outs. Hans Garrett Schoves. Our buddy Paul is back on, and he didn't know who Sammy Joe Small was, but throws out a very big compliment saying, wow, what an incredible young lady. So that's fantastic. And then, of course, Greg Bowden. here saying amazing accomplishments, Sammy Joe, you deserve it all. So, well, very, very well done and very good. And we'll be putting on our site your website, so people that are interested in coming to your camps, they will have the ability to see what you do, and they will join up, no question, after hearing how great you are. Listen, I want to ask a question about the women's game. Of course, it is a little bit controversial. We've been reading a lot of stuff. I'm going to leave it to you. I don't want to. We don't read any controversy here.
Yeah.
Everybody's asking what my jersey is, but I'll tell you that after. Listen.
Winnipeg Jets jersey?
Sorry?
Do you have a Winnipeg Jets jersey on right now?
I do not. I do not.
Okay. Just checking.
Listen, the state of the game prior to the lockout and what you see it going in the future. Could you bring us up to speed on that?
For sure. So I think, as both you guys probably know, that's a very big question in women's hockey right now. That I think all of us would love to know be able to look into the crystal ball and know what the future holds. But to be honest, we just really don't know. So let's take you back. I can give you a little bit of a brief history of where we were prior to COVID-19 happening. So about a year ago, the CWHL was as I was the general manager of the Toronto Furies. It was my first year as a GM. I really enjoyed it. And unfortunately, at the end of the season, we had a meeting with the board of directors. We thought the meeting was going to be to announce new sponsors, but they announced that they were no longer going to be running the CWHL, and they were going to be shutting its doors. And it was a hard message to receive. And publicly, they stated that financially it just wasn't feasible. But that, it's hard for me as somebody who started the league to really accept that, because for 11 years it was financially feasible. But I think what they really meant by those words were that they wanted women's hockey to be in a different space. They wanted it to elevate to the next level so that women could truly be paid for the product that was on the ice. And the product was incredible. By the end of the season, we're starting to average 500 to 700 people a game. It's not huge, but for us, I really felt we had some really positive momentum. So what came out of the CWHL folding was that there was a lot of sort of uncertainty, unknown, and the players banded together under what is the PWHPA, so Pro Women's Players Hockey Association. Now, that doesn't include management, and that doesn't include any coaches or any. That's just the players, basically standing together to say that they deserve more. And while that is not untrue, I do think they deserve more. I think the fact that we don't have a league makes the negotiations very difficult in these trying times. So this year they used the year to play some exhibition games and to, travel the game around in different sites that maybe wouldn't have been privy to watch a women's game before. And I think it was very successful. I think a lot of people became aware of the women's plight and the situation for pro women's hockey players, and that they'd been toiling away in obscurity for a long time. And suddenly, I think it was at forefront of a lot of people's minds. So that was good. And I think a lot of positive things came out of that. What I felt did happen also during the season is that the skill level of the players, it was to the detriment of the skill level, because I think that without the regular practice schedule, without the intensity that being a part of a team creates, being down by a goal in an important game or being up by a goal in an important game, I think it was hard for the players to really push themselves to be the best they could be, because there wasn't that incentive to win a championship or to win the playoff game or even to win that current game. Specifically for the goaltenders, it was just kind of rotated amongst all the goalies that signed up in that region. So some goalies got lots of action, some goalies got very little action. Throughout the year, players started to sort of decide that they actually wanted to play hockey and went over to Europe to play. So the goaltender that was the goalie for the Toronto Furies, Shea Tiley, who's just on the cusp of making the Olympic team, wasn't getting much action here. And so she decided to go over and play in Sweden and had a very successful year over there. So I think for a lot of the girls, it created this incredibly challenging situation, but one in which they finally had to take account of what they really wanted. You know, what did they really need to be the best that they needed to be? So access to training, being on the ice, all of those kind of things, and really started to hold each other accountable for that. So I think, you know, I have the utmost respect for all of those players that are going through this incredibly difficult situation. I don't know as a player what I would do. It would, you know, I would go out and play street hockey on the street. I just love to play. I just love to be out there. But I do understand that this is bigger than that. This is bigger than just me wanting to be on the ice playing. And I think a lot of these players understand that as well, that, you know, 5 or 10 years from now, they will have made the ultimate sacrifice of their career so that that next generation can have a career. And is that right or is that wrong? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there. So prior to COVID-19 happening, there was still an NWHL, which is the National Women's Hockey League that exists in the States. All of the players in the PW, HPA, have decided they don't want to play in that league, and it's not, in their minds, a viable league. So the players down there, it basically was exactly, with a few little different twists and turns, exactly the same format as the CWHL, but with private ownership. The salaries were between $8,000 and $12,000, not huge, but something. So these players have decided they don't want to play there, and basically are attempting to play under the auspice of the NHL. So they are hopeful that eventually the NHL will come in, take over, set up a new women's hockey league. And what is currently happening with PWHPA is just sort of a stopgap measure until that happens. I think there are some great conversations that were happening amongst the NHL, amongst the PW, the NWHL. I think people were starting to finally communicate. And then this happened, and the reality is that now the NHL and their owners are starting to turn inwards and looking out for themselves. And women's hockey will probably not be on the docket for a little while, if not a couple of years. So these players will have a challenging time in front of them. For the top players that are Olympians, they still have access to training. They still get paid by the federal government. They're still full-time hockey players. And there's still ice time for them, extra ice time during the day. And that includes maybe about 40 of the players. But there's 150 players that are in this league. So for those other players that have full-time jobs, it's going to be really difficult. It's going to be really difficult to continue to train at the highest level and compete against Olympians who have access to everything for the next 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. I mean, nobody really knows what the end game is or when that will happen. So I wish I had more clarity as to the direction. The only thing that I know is that within women's hockey, we have a lot of really great people doing a lot of really great things. So I'm very confident that at the end of all of this, there will be something amazing. There will be a professional women's hockey league where girls get paid an adequate salary to be able to hone their skills and play hockey at the highest level. I just don't know when that will be, but there will be something really great that will be out there. And so I have to have faith that, enough people will believe in the product that eventually there will be something on the ice for these girls that are currently sacrificing everything, which is really their play. And it's their careers ultimately. And it's the joy that I know that I still find when I go to play adult rec hockey. I mean, I still love being out there. And so I just feel so bad for these girls that are missing out on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that gave you much, but I mean, that's basically the state of affairs.
Yeah.
Well, what do you got on? You got a Canada jersey, a Canada shirt.
But
me or Rosie?
Rosie, what do you got on? I can't see.
I've got on my T-shirt from Vancouver, my Canada T-shirt from Vancouver, which Sammy was a big part of helping me get to Vancouver. So that's why I wore this in
Thanks, Rosie.
Thumbs up to Sammy. And for those of you who don't know, Sammy is also a professional motivational speaker.
Yes,
That's why those answers were so beautiful and so precise. And I got a chance once, that's what I do for a living too, but Sammy and myself, we did a corporate event together. Trying to remember who it was for, but it was quite good. We went back and forth every 5 minutes. That
was a lot of fun. I want to say it was maybe Pfizer or something. It was a Paralympic sponsor.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We should present more together.
We should, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And
Anybody wants to hire us, Paul and I are available.
We are. We can do virtual stuff too. We don't have to come to your office. We'll do it on the computer.
You got it.
Yeah,
Sam, what do you got on? What does that say?
Oh, I just have my hockey. I just realized I have my hockey school T-shirt on. It says "Play like a girl."
No way. I can't. Listen, I played in a couple of celebrity games. I don't think I've ever scored on you.
Oh my gosh, Gooch! I feel like we used to play every Friday together.
Yes.
And I feel like I had to leave the ice several times because you got multiple goals on me.
No. I was always on your team. I was only scoring.
No.
You know the great thing about both your weddings? I was at both your weddings with a hockey tuxedo jersey on. At yours, Gooch, walking down the aisle at the Hockey Hall of Fame with Mary Tony, and with Sammy playing in goal in a fun event.
That's right. I saw that picture.
Billy at I can't remember where it was, somewhere in Mississauga, but I do remember Tyler Stewart from the Bare Naked Ladies having a breakaway on me and stopping him. So I felt good about that.
But he's only a musician. He's not a hockey player. Danny Joe, we've had a great time with you. You're absolutely fantastic. Very articulate is what I could say, and we really look forward to having you back on.
Yeah, we got to get her back on.
Anytime. I got time, guys. I appreciate it.
But I do want to shout out some more. Hans Gerrit Schofs, he's in Krefeld, Germany. There's a name, Andy Pritchard. You may not know the name. His daughter is a high-level player. Her name is Delaney Pritchard. Does that name ring a bell at all? Have you heard that name? She's not a goalie. She's an
I just think of Pritchard, who carries the Stanley Cup.
Oh, Phil.
That's Phil Pritchard. He's always wearing those white gloves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so I don't know the other Pritchard, but
we also have Sebastian Fortier, who was on our show yesterday, who runs schools all over the world. Is we're looking to hire a woman to run the girls tournaments division. There you go, Sammy Joe's.
There you go.
He's got to contact you.
Two up.
All right. Well, Sammy, say hi to Billy. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. We have really thoroughly enjoyed this, and Hunter wants to say we've made her day by bringing her up and saying how wonderful.
That's so sweet. Well, thank you to both of you guys. I really appreciate it. And keep doing what you're doing. You're putting a lot of, making a lot of people smile right now in a tough time.
Well, they're just following me on the technical side. That's fun in itself. Thank you so much.
That's funny.
Thanks, Sammy.
Thank you. Okay, sounds good.
Take care.
Wow, I'll tell you what, that was incredible. So,
and you know what, Gooch, really quick, we got to have her on again because we could do 2 hours just with her talking about.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're gonna. You know what? There's been some guests where we're going to have to do that. This, obviously it runs a little bit long. We've got our buddy Kevin in the wakes, so I'm gonna go really quickly on the second intermission. It's called Up the Puck. We have graphics for it. It's not up here today, but just let me go on this right now.
You got it.
Just before we get Kevin Shea up here for the third period, and then ending it with Val in overtime, I had an opportunity to take this section and talk a little bit about giving some information about stuff around the world. And one of it is, obviously, I've been to Australia several times and have fallen in love with the organization down there. What's important is the Goodall Cup. I just wanted to make sure that people understood what the Goodall Cup was. It's the annual trophy that's given out for the Australian Ice Hockey League. That's their pro league. If anybody knows the name Nathan Walker, he obviously came from Australia, and he's the first Australian-born player to make it to the NHL, score a goal, and win a Stanley Cup. And I spoke to David Turk, the new commissioner, just a couple of days ago about the cup. It was given out to the Sydney Bears last year. It will probably not be given out this year as the league starts in a couple of weeks. It's on hold, of course, not knowing what's going to go on, but he will keep us updated. It's the third oldest hockey trophy in the world. Who would have thunk that? Third oldest trophy in the world. And then, of course, it's the oldest trophy outside of North America. And it was given the first time in 1911, September 1911, it was given out, and it was all because of a gentleman named John Edwin Goodall. And you know what? The cup is in the Hockey Hall of Fame. The original sits in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and the replica is given out every year to the winner of the AIHL. So now, without further ado, we've got a chance to get into the third period. We have our good friend coming up, Kevin Shea.
Hey, Kevin. Hi, Kevin. You there?
Kevin, you there? Why is Kevin not on?
Kevin, got a beautiful china cabinet behind him.
All right, Kevin, we're looking for you, kid. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get Kevin on here in a few seconds. Just give us 1 sec. I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe there's something wrong with his mic. So we're going to get Val on that. Thanks, buddy. While we're doing that, while I'm trying to get Kevin on, Paul, why don't you comment a little bit more? You know Sammy Jo Small really well. Why don't you go in and give us a little bit more information on that?
Yeah, you know, Sammy is she is an absolute incredible girl, incredible woman, and incredible goalie coach. And she has done like so many, you know, you could just have talent and just play with your talent. Yeah, she played on the women's team and went to a bunch of Olympic games. But what she has done just to help the women's game, she's gone all over. She did a camp in Nunavut. She's gone all over the world to help young girls. And this is the one thing. If you have an opportunity, anybody out there, you had a good career, but you have an opportunity to give back, it is mandatory that you give back, help out. And Sammy has done that. She's gone all across the world to help young girls, to help them realize a dream. And that is to be the best that you can be. Reach for the stars. Don't settle for mediocrity, girls. If you have an opportunity, you have a talent, get out there and try your very best to accomplish what Sammy has accomplished. And you know, I'm very, very proud to know Sammy and to see her on a daily basis out there helping young girls. Kevin, are you there?
I sure am.
All right, we see you. Fantastic. So Gooch should be coming on in a second, Kevin. There he is right there.
Hey,
we got them all.
hey.
Kevin, Carrie Goulet, Kevin Shane, Paul Rosen, we're all on screen.
Fantastic.
You are listening you're following us on Gooch Live. I'll tell you what, after I'm all done and I can get out of here, I can actually go to the Best Buy and buy some stuff to help us take care of all these technical issues. Obviously, people that don't know it, I'm in 12-week shutdown because of my asthma. I am not leaving my home. I'm not going anywhere because of obviously what we see out there. So I'm really stuck with the gaffer tape and the nails and the crazy glue to put this show together. And you know what? Hey, it's entertaining if nothing else. Listen, the story about that, Kev, we weren't able to give you the accreditations right off the bat. Everybody that knows Kevin Shea is a very humble gentleman, if I could say that. Very talented gentleman. He's a hockey historian, works at the Hockey Hall of Fame. That's where I believe I met you the first time. And then what's really cool about Kevin is not only does he know everything about the history of hockey, and we're going to stump him with a couple of questions, but he teaches a hockey history course at Seneca College. He also teaches a leadership course to the Indigenous community about hockey and uses the culture of the Indigenous. He's authored 17 books. Wow. For God's sakes, Paul, I haven't even read 17 books.
Well, I haven't even looked at, forget about read, and looked at 17 books.
I think I've read five books. One full back-to-back, front to cover, and the other were, I think, 4 Playboys. And the final one is, he is the principal of the Road Hockey to Conquer Cancer, and that's what I wore today.
There you go. That's beautiful.
Fantastic.
Just for you, Kevin, because you do such great things around the world. Can't thank you enough for joining us and putting up with our shenanigans.
It's always fun, and I love joining you guys, and I just love this podcast anyway, so I'm thrilled to be part of it.
All right, well, let's dig right into it. Obviously, you know, I was talking about the Good Old Cup, and the other day you sent me a little note that you'll give it some information on it. Got Robbie Weir on it, said designed her own goal pads. Oh, this is about Shea saying what a great interviewer and interviewee that Kevin Shea is. So tell us a little bit about what you know about Australian ice hockey.
Well, so I don't know a great deal about it. And that's interesting. My stepdaughter, my youngest stepdaughter,
that's right,
is living in Australia these days and was fortunate enough with her boyfriend to be able to go to one of the classics that you put on. But I was doing a little bit of studying of things online, like we all are during this crazy crisis time. And I found out that there's a guy named Tyler Lovering, who's a Canadian kid who is putting together the league down, or who put together the league down in Australia. And I was hoping, Kerry, that maybe you could tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I had an opportunity 2 years ago to meet him. He went down there to play, as a lot of players do, mostly from the Western side back in the 80s into the 90s. There was a big surge of people going over for the mining industry. And it just so happened that a really good friend of mine, Scott Davidson from Winnipeg, I played for the Winnipeg University of Winnipeg, as did he. Prior to that, I didn't get to meet him there. I actually met him in Australia, where he had ended up being a player in the league. And that's when I met Tyler. And Tyler had explained to me that he went over there to play. And he ended up obviously becoming not only a great player, but he realized that there was an opportunity to build a league. So that's how he came on board. And just been a great story, because, as you know, very similar to Germany, where it's soccer, soccer, soccer. In Australia, it's AFL, AFL, NRL, NRL, and cricket.
God, crazy stuff, but wonderful. And it's just great to see that hockey really is truly a global game. Landlocked countries playing hockey, places that are thriving with other sports are now thriving in hockey as well. So it's wonderful for the game as it grows and grows and grows. But we have to remember that most have adopted it from this country here in Canada.
Absolutely. You know what? One day we're going to get you on, because the big controversy is, where did it start?
Sure.
We don't have enough time to talk about that today, but I would love you to spend a good 20 minutes just telling us about the history of hockey, because the Russians are taking claim. I know the British are taking claim. I know that New Zealand, and you know what? I would even go back. We're going to do this. I'm going to look into it. I've met a guy in Australia, and he was telling me they played hockey in the late 1800s in Australia also. So love to figure all those numbers out, and I know you could do that for us. Listen, before Paul gets in on the question, we'd love to hear about 1919.
Oh,
it was
wow.
The last time, I think you were telling me, it's the last time the Stanley Cup wasn't played for. And also, Kevin, I think the Stanley Cup, you're going to correct me if I'm wrong, of course, the Stanley Cup is the oldest trophy.
Well, so it's not necessarily the oldest sporting trophy, but we believe it to be the oldest hockey trophy. And it's arguable, because there were some Montreal leagues back in the day that were around the same time. But the Stanley Cup, it was actually called the Dominion Hockey Challenge Cup. It's not even officially called the Stanley Cup. Started in 1893. And so Lord Stanley donated it to hockey, the championship of hockey at that time.
We got you, Kev.
There we are. Sorry.
No, you go off the screen. We just want to see your pretty face. We don't need to look at us two ugly guys.
Yeah, but you're poor viewers. Jeez.
All right. We're going to put you on. Let's see the comments. Who's the best looking one on the panel?
Don't do that. No, I hate rejection.
Oh.
No.
Believe me, it won't be me, Kevin. It won't be me.
All right, Kev. You won hands down. All right. So keep going on that trophy.
So anyway, so that would be the Stanley Cup. 1893 was the first time that it was presented. Now, the Allen Cup was supposed to be for the championship of hockey, but the guy who gave it, Montague Allen, he was beaten by Lord Stanley, so he donated to the championship of senior hockey around 1911. Now, if I'm not incorrect here, I believe that somebody on this podcast was an Allen Cup champion.
It wasn't me.
Wasn't you? Yes. Hey, thank you. Yeah, I got very fortunate to play in Thunder Bay in 1988. What a if you look back in senior hockey, a dynasty. They won 4 in a row, and I was picked up to play there because I owned a nightclub with a guy named Dick Davidson in Thunder Bay, and I got to play with them, and we won an Allen Cup, and it was fantastic. What an incredible experience. The fans, the city of Thunder Bay absolutely loves their hockey. And so what a Mark Backer and I are best friends. We talk about it all the time. So thank you for that.
There we go. And then the Memorial Cup came along just after the First World War. And so it was around 1919 that it was first donated and first won as well. So we've got 3 amazing trophies, 3 amazing championships, and all very, very old. Here we are, over 100 years old for each of them.
Wow. And well, of course, there's nobody better than Kevin Shea telling us about the Stanley Cup. You've written 17 books.
Wow.
And I think I noticed Stanley Cup in about 8 of them, 7 of them in the titles. So you obviously know everything we need to know about the Stanley Cup. So please tell us about 1919. I know you weren't around at this particular time, but tell us about the Cup.
Well, I was just 30 years old at the time, so I have a vague recollection. Stop it right now. So it wasn't the only time that the Stanley Cup wasn't awarded, because we have to think about the lockout season as well. But as far as because of illness, 1919 was the very first time and the only time up until who knows what's going to happen this year that the Stanley Cup wasn't awarded because of illness. I mean, through the years, we've had different things. We've had Sidney Crosby and the mumps, and it looked for a while like that was going to spread across the league in some way, but it didn't compromise the league so much so. But back in 1919, it certainly did. And it was because of something called the Spanish influenza pandemic. And that last word is something that we should take in mind right now, because obviously we're going through our own pandemic right now. But you have to remember the time too. 1917, thereabouts, was the First World War. And so there was a lot of movement around the world because of troops, because of people returning home after serving in Europe or wherever they happened to be. And that was the challenge, is that there were illnesses that were abounding, but as people were moving to come back to Canada, United States, wherever they happened to be in Europe, they were bringing the illness with them as well. So it's not dissimilar to our own pandemic right now too. So they're coming back, and it got called the Spanish flu, not because it started in Spain, but it's because it was first reported in a Madrid newspaper there. And so it was an easy tag back at the time, call it the Spanish flu, just as we've heard the president of the United States calling it the China flu and things like that. Incorrect on his behalf, incorrect on 1919 as well. But it just started to cross around to different people in 1918 or so. In Eastern Canada, including Ontario, Quebec, places of that sort, it was already rampant. The illness was already rampant this way. It didn't head west. Now you have to remember back then that travel was very minimal back then, and certainly off social media and any kind of communication was very poor at the time, because it just hadn't been invented in many cases. So the disease traveled west, and it didn't hit to the west coast of the United States and Canada until 1919. So I'm going to go on for another moment here, but what ended up happening at the time was that the winner of the National Hockey League, in this case it was the Montreal Canadiens, was going to play the winner of the Pacific Coast Hockey Association, which was based on the west coast of Canada. And the winner that year was a team called the Seattle Metropolitans. So what ended up happening is the Montreal Canadiens had to travel across Canada. They played exhibition games as they went along, again, potentially spreading the Spanish flu as well, and arrived in Vancouver and then headed down to Seattle. Well, the Spanish flu was just blossoming in Seattle at that particular time. So the two teams are playing. They're playing a great series. It's great hockey back then. Seattle wins the first game. Actually, just a bit of trivia at the same time is the Pacific Coast Hockey Association played with 7 players. The National Hockey League played with 6 players. So when they were playing, it was odd. When they played in the first game, it was under PCHA rules. The next game was under NHL rules. Confusing as can be, and it certainly was a different game at the same time. Yeah. Anyway, first game, Seattle wins 7-0, playing Pacific Coast Hockey Association rules. Montreal comes back and doubles Seattle 4-2. The next game, Seattle thwarts Montreal 7-2. In the third game, weird thing happened in the fourth game. Scoreless tie. Went into overtime, still scoreless. They couldn't figure out what to do at that time, so they called off the game and just called it a tie. Montreal comes back in the next game and wins 4-3. So now the series is tied, 2 games apiece. The deciding game, the 5th and deciding game, now is going to happen on April 1st, 1919. The problem was, at that time, many people started to get sick. Many of the participants started to get sick. So we saw a great number of the Montreal Canadiens very, very ill at that point. And some guys just like deathly ill, including a guy by the name of Joe Hall. They called him Bad Joe Hall. Wasn't all that bad, but he was the oldest guy on the team. He was 38 years old at the time and quite a veteran of the league. And he was so bad that he couldn't play. Another guy named Jack McDonald, also unable to play. The team was decimated by the illness. And you have to remember, too, that the teams weren't 20 plus players as we would have today. It was maybe 10 players, mostly 5 guys or 6, depending on whether you're playing PCHA roles, along with a couple of subs. Well, the team was decimated and they weren't able to continue on that way. So what ended up happening is that they called off the series. Joe Hall succumbed to the illness on April 5th, so just 4 days later, but the series was called off. And now, if you ever go into the Hockey Hall of Fame or you see it traveling around, go to 1919 and look on the Stanley Cup, and it says right there, Montreal Canadiens, Seattle Metropolitans, series not completed. And that was because of the Spanish influenza pandemic.
Wow. Kevin, you are no question one of the top historians, and we're going to bring you back. Paul, I know you want to have a question with Kevin.
Yeah, that's first of all unbelievable. Every time I hear
I'm
Kevin,
so sorry, guys, but I'm unable to hear Paul at this point. Sorry.
Paul, we can't listen. We're really having some fun. Paul, throw the question out. I'll throw it at him.
Okay, so no, I just wanted to say, Kevin, it's incredible. Every time you get a chance to listen to him, it's incredible. Now, Kevin, with the, I wanted to ask him what's going on now with his involvement with Hockey to Conquer Cancer with Princess Margaret. We both had a chance to be a part of that. You know, they've raised millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Oh, great question.
Uh-oh.
I feel like Alexander Graham Bell here. You know, I've got the tin can. So I don't know if you heard that, Kevin.
I didn't hear any of it, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Well, his lips were moving. I thought he was. I thought you heard. Listen, he's asking the question about. Obviously, you're a big part of Road Hockey to Conquer Cancer. Paul Bruno's out there saying hello. What a great jersey. He's got one of them too. Well, I've got you then. Before I go into the question, I got to tell you, it's exploded here. Everybody talking about their uncles and aunts being a part of hockey. And my uncle won it in 1977. And that's fantastic from Greg Bogan. But this one's really cool, Kevin. And you can tell your relatives over in your daughter-in-law, in Australia. This comes from Aaron Kuzak in Australia. He watches our show faithfully. What a great voice Kevin has. The David Attenborough of hockey. Would love an autograph video of him, or autograph picture of him. What a fantastic compliment. Aaron, you're a weirdo, but I love you. And Wick Wharton asks, who's your favorite goalie?
Oh boy, favorite goalie.
One word answer.
Bauer.
You got it. And then the final part is Kevin Shea, he loves you. David Stubb said hello. So listen, we know the question came from Paul. Let's hear from you what your thoughts are on that.
I didn't hear the question at all, Kerry, so if you could give it to me again.
I thought I didn't articulate. Paul asked the question, because you're so heavily involved. I didn't ask you the question, actually, I got tongue-tied. Because you're so heavily involved with Road Hockey to Conquer Cancer, where do you see that? Obviously, it's been postponed for this year. I think it's maybe on hold. You can tell us that. And if it is on hold, how does that affect? Obviously, you know, we run a not-for-profit and a charity. It's really going to hurt us. All of our events have been canceled. Or just our biggest one was just canceled. So this is a big deal for you guys.
Absolutely.
What do you do?
So I'm a contracted employee of the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation. And the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation raises over $100 million on a consistent basis. Yeah. And this is going to slam the amount that is raised for cancer research here in Toronto that is spread around the world. Already we've had the Ride to Conquer Cancer postponed, and they traditionally raise close to $20 million every year. Now, Road Hockey to Conquer Cancer is a terrific event going into its 10th year now. To date, through 9 years, it's raised $23 million. This is not inconsequential by any means. It's a huge amount, and it's used by the researchers and the doctors at the Princess Margaret for invaluable work. And they need it for infrastructure. They need it for the research that's going on. They need it for their teams. They need it for equipment, etc. And they'll suffer without it. Now, people step up and they're donating money. We get donors all the time, lovely donors who raise, whether it be $10 or $1 million, they're there. But these events are really, really what helps catapult the research. So without some major events raising millions of dollars, it's going to crimp what can be done by not just the Princess Margaret, by all hospitals, all foundations. Everybody's going to be challenged by this. So if people have a dollar here or a dollar there, think about those who are trying to do good work, who need the money desperately. It's a tough time for us all, don't get me wrong. People being laid off, people finding that their hours are cut back, or that they don't have the sponsorship money that they once had. But we have to think in a broader term of everybody who's out there, and it's a community, and we're a communion, and we all have to work together.
Well, and the one thing that's really important, and I know, Paul, are you back? Can you hear Kev?
Yeah, I hear perfectly.
Kevin, do you hear Paul?
I don't, I'm afraid. Sorry.
All right, so I'll just say that obviously Paul and I are really honored that you're on the show. We ran a little bit long. We wanted to ask you the big question, so I'm going to give you, it's a one sentence answer. Not that you're long-winded. Your information got a lot of people, you know I am. You got a lot of people saying great nostalgia stories. You know your stuff. That's fantastic. So if you know your stuff, we know that you're a Toronto Maple Leaf, blue and blue. We know. Do you have a tattoo?
I do.
Thank you, David Stubbs.
Hey,
No.
Never mind.
Okay, this is a family show for guys.
Hey.
We've got a family show. So the question is, and it's a one, please. It's only a couple of sentences long. You're the general manager as of today for the Toronto Maple Leafs. What do you do when we come out of this lockout?
It's impossible to even answer that question because there's so many contingency plans that need to be done. You just have to keep everybody as ready as possible, find out what the cap is going to be, and move forward at that point. So I'm afraid that I'm going to have to be as obtuse as I wouldn't know it right now. I don't know that they know, but you come up with all of the different scenarios and look forward to it. And as soon as the word comes out that the season's going to start and this is the way it's going to be, then you put into action the one that's most appropriate for your team.
Truculence. I say the Leafs need truculence. And I know Paul Rosen and our guest yesterday were saying, trade Marner. Would you trade Marner?
No, I wouldn't trade Marner, but I would consider, this will go right off the board, I would consider trading Austin Matthews.
Oh my God! You're gonna get death mail. Do not.
Tell him I agree with that.
Where do you find a player who can give you 40 goals a season on a consistent basis? But I just think that if you could use him as trade bait to get a scorer and a defenseman, this is the way to go. I know it's really, really a valiant thing to say, but that's where I would go.
You're fantastic. I'll tell you what, you got big, you know what. Thank you for that. But now I got to ask you this. Alan Stitches came on, historian over. I know we're going over, but Billy Barilko, because you know so much about him, because now that you've almost shattered the dreams of the Toronto Maple Leafs by trading Austin Matthews. What a great story about Billy Barilko. You got 30 seconds.
Bill Barilko was the tragic young hero who scored the Stanley Cup winning goal in 1951. It was his 5th year in the league, and during those 5 seasons, they won the Stanley Cup on 4 occasions. He's the unlikely guy to score the goal. He certainly wasn't a goal scorer by any means. He goes off that summer, enjoys his summer as so many do, goes back to Timmins. He goes on a fishing trip to northern Quebec and never returns. His plane was found 11 years later, 1962, when the Stanley Cup was then won by the Toronto Maple Leafs for the first time since his goal in 1951. So one of the great stories of hockey lore, let alone in Maple Leaf history, in my opinion, the greatest goal that the Toronto Maple Leafs ever had.
Paul is whispering in my ear, can you sing the song by the Bare Naked Ladies?
Oh, no.
By the Tragically Hip, yeah.
I was just asking you guys. I was telling you guys if you knew that.
But listen, before we do that, I just want to make one quick comment. So Sammy Joe was on. What a great interview that was. Yeah. Here's something to throw out as well. You mentioned Billy Bridges as part of it. Paul mentioned a couple of times about Billy. Wouldn't it be great that after Billy retires, they wait the 3-year waiting period and Billy becomes the first Paralympic hockey player to be entered into the Hockey Hall of Fame? Wouldn't that be great?
With Paul. Paul can go with him, and it's a package.
he could carry his equipment to the ceremony.
Well,
Thanks,
that's fantastic. Great shout out, Paul. I'm really sorry that Kevin can't hear you, but did you hear all those, Paul? You hear Kevin?
I heard everything.
He's
Great.
got to make some bread for us right now.
All right, Kevin. Thank you so much. You're a fantastic guy. Thanks, you for all the history. We will be bringing you back on in the next couple of weeks as we present Gooch Live featuring Paul Rosen, and of course, brought to you by the good people of the Hockey News.
And the great people at Christian Hockey.
Bye, Kev. Thanks, bud.
Thank you very much. That was fun. Hope I didn't, because I couldn't hear anybody, I just motored, so I hope you don't mind.
You did well, buddy.
Okay.
All right, now we're going into overtime. Hey, Paul, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, Gooch. You hear me?
Kevin Shea, oh my God.
Yeah, Kevin, incredible. He talked about Billy, and Billy, when he does retire, there's records that will never be broken, and I would be honored to carry his equipment. But it was a tragically hip 50 mission cap about Bill Barilko, and one of these times when we have time, I'll sing the song.
Okay, oh my God, I hope we don't find the time. All right, let's take in the overtime with Val. He's been sitting in the wings, obviously watching this. I don't know if you know, Paul, we had some more technical issues, kid. My computer froze for about a minute, and I had no idea what to do, but thank God for Tony Neal coming and pushing the right button. All right, ladies and gentlemen, to wrap up the show, I just want to say, Kevin Shea, thank you. Fantastic, great information, and we will bring you back and find out some more great stories about the Hockey Hall of Fame. And of course, Sammy Jo Small. I think we could spend at least an hour just talking with her and finding out more about the game of hockey and stuff. So we're looking for that. All right, so right now we've got Val Silva joining us. Val, what's going on?
What's going on, boys? I'm finally on the show. No technical difficulties there, right?
Yeah. Hey, look at the jersey we got.
Yeah. Well, there's an honor being part of this great team that we were the best dressed team in that.
What's the name of the team?
We were called the 9-inch males, so we'll just leave it at
listen,
that.
I saw you in the shower.
We got to get you one of these shirts too, buddy.
I'm not sure that's. Listen, we've got some really good people coming. Yannick Bauer is out in Germany, he's in Montreal. He's from Germany. He's joined us. He's been on every show. Hans Schopf. You know what, Paul? We're going to bring him on the show. He's one of the top journalists in Krefeld. Knows almost every guest that we've had except for Sammy Jo. He knows of them. And so I want to make sure that we bring him on and he can talk business of sport. Obviously, if this continues on, and Kevin touched upon it on the charity side of it, as you know, Paul, in Europe, sorry to take your thunder here for a sec, Paul. Val, I just wanted to throw this out there. Obviously, the business of charities, as you know, with our situation, we're all going to struggle. We're all in it together. What about the business of sport in Europe? All these major soccer teams, hockey teams. It's not the first league teams. It's all the ones that are under the second and third and fourth division. They'll get no sponsorship money, and that's what they live off of. So we'll bring him on. And I just want to do a final shout out, Marshall Starkman from Rogers Nielsen Hockey School and his coaching clinic. Love to see him, and we're going to be a big part of his coaching clinic coming up. Marshall, keep on doing what you're doing. It's fantastic. All right, too bad. Overtime. What's going on?
Not much, guys. Great interview with Sammy Jo Small today, and Kevin Shea, also hockey historian and best-selling author. Great. We definitely have to have him back for longer interviews. Maybe dedicate first and second periods to them moving forward. Okay, so just moving on to we're gonna actually pass on tonight's winner because of all the Groundhog Day technical difficulties all three of us have been having today. So we'll bring that back tomorrow to tomorrow's show. But Paul, I did want to touch on your rant to add to a number of athletes around the world who are also doing their part in adding to the recovery effort for this COVID-19. We have Conor McGregor donating 1 million euros for the Ireland, and we have Novak Djokovic also donating 1 million euros worth of ventilators in Serbia, and we have Cristiano Ronaldo along with a number of other top footballers around the world donating whatever efforts and money they can to help the cause in fighting this disease this illness at the time.
And we have so many guys too, Val, here in North America stepping up. When some of the clubs haven't, the players have stepped up and donated significant amounts of money. I know that's just wonderful to see.
Exactly, just like Paul had in his Rosie's rant in the earlier part in the show,
Yeah.
all the good work from the North American athletes and around the world. So, gentlemen, we're going to move right into the overtime and see what's wrong, what's right. And first, I am going to start with myself. Yesterday, I mentioned that Sammy Jo Small was a 4-time Olympic champion. I was incorrect. She's
Yes.
actually a 4-time world champion, IIHF world champion. So that one is on me. So I pick on everybody on the show, including myself. Okay, so then we're going to move on to the fact of the Goodall Cup is the second oldest hockey trophy in the world. It was first awarded in 1909. So first we have the Stanley Cup, the Goodall Cup, the O'Brien Trophy in 1910, and then the Memorial Cup in 1919.
Oh my God, no, you got it wrong. You know what? I'm going to go back to Kevin Shea, because Kevin and I had a great conversation. All right.
I'm not going to argue with Kevin, but I did do some research, and I think I might be right on this one.
Okay, tomorrow's show we're going to bring this up because I know for a fact, because I know Kevin Shea, I know for a fact you're going on Wikipedia. I'm going to the Bible, and it's Kevin Shea. So let's do that tomorrow.
Actually, I am doing a little Wikipedia and a lot of other sites of research too. So,
all right. I'm going to my think tank.
So let me bring this up to you guys. What are the 4 oldest trophies in the world in sports, no matter what sport it is?
Oh gosh.
Right. I just know the Memorial Cup is a very old trophy, but I would go with Kevin Shea over any computer glitch out there.
Hang on. I'm going to call a friend. I'm going to go with the oldest trophy. Has got to be something.
Sports. Any sports trophy.
It's got to be older. It's got to be in Europe somewhere. Foosball.
I wouldn't even
darts.
The Memorial Cup's an old trophy.
All right, gentlemen. I'm going to cut this off before it gets any longer. We've got the America's Cup, which is awarded for yacht racing.
All right, the American
1851. Cup, Then we have the Claret Jug, 1872, awarded for the
British Open.
That's right, the British Open winner. Then we have Wimbledon, one of tennis's four Grand Slams. That one is 1877. And then we have the North America Hometown Trophy, the Stanley Cup, is 4th on the list.
Wow, okay, good. All right, we're going to check your facts. Yeah. I like it.
All right, so listen, we're going to move on to tomorrow's show and wrap this up on my side. Tomorrow, please tune in and join us, as in the second period, we have our good friend and former Belfast Giant, David Rutherford, joining us for the second period.
You got it.
And the third period, we'll have Philadelphia alumni Brian Propp also joining us. So please tune in, along with our regular Rosie's Rant and What the Puck with Kerry Goulet. And if you're sticking around for overtime, I will be back.
Well, I'll tell you what, Val, great job. We are going to do some fact finding tonight, so it'll be between you and I, because I know Paul's on my side, and we'll see who wins it. Hey, Paul, that'll be a good little thing.
Sure, I agree. Let's leave me out of that one when it comes to computer facts.
All right.
I barely turn this computer on.
Before you get to your final word, Paul, I just want to thank everybody. We've had some fun. We're going to continue this on. Obviously, we're all sitting in our basements or in front of a TV just watching it. Turn the news off for a few minutes and come and have a chuckle with us. We'll make sure we make you feel good about your technical issues, because there's nobody worse than us. And I think I'm getting tired of saying that, but I just want to thank all the people. Like, really, we're touching about 100 to 150 people a day. We get 300 to 400 views. I know that's where ESPN started out. So obviously you got to start somewhere. And I sure don't think they started in their living room, but who knows? But, John Cavers is always there. He looks like Lanny McDonald. He just sent a picture in, Paul. You guys know Kevin Shea too. You know that he does look like Lanny McDonald. So I'm going to put a picture up tomorrow, and it's going to be tough to figure out who's who. Obviously, Yannick Power just let us know he did get home, thank God, to Germany instead of being in Montreal. Craig Eldridge out of Chicago, always there. We know Hans is there. Paul Bruno is saying that Kevin is right. Not sure what that means. And then Robert Wine and Wendy McCreary, all you people, thank you for taking time out your busy schedule, being in self-isolation. We love you. Paul, last word.
Yeah, excellent show. Sammy Jo, obviously I'm biased, is one of the the best people out there, incredible speaker. Kevin Shea, I wish we didn't have the technical difficulties that he could have heard me, but it is what it is. We are doing the best we can do, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow, Gooch and Val, to get a chance to have Brian Propp, one of my favorites, who did the old falupa or whatever he called it. We'll ask him the exact word of what he called it, yeah, it should be a lot of fun, and end it the way I always end it. You know, be strong, and you can get by this. You can get through it. We're there for you. Gooch loves you. Rosie loves you. Val loves you.
And you know what, Paul? Dave Rutherford's coming. You were coaching him over in Australia. He's got a story.
I'm telling you, I'm going to talk to him about that, looking back at me on the bench when I thought he was going to kill me.
Yeah, but you got to hear his stories about this year in hockey. It is absolutely amazing what you're going to hear tomorrow. So make sure you check it out. Not only Dave Rutherford, but also Brian Propp, the Philadelphia legend. Good night, guys.